going by my phone because my phone is the most accurate. Okay. There.
Let's see.
That. Okie dokie. Let me try to monitor the chat. Superplex party. Okay.
We're broadcasting on YouTube, correct?
Yes.
Works for every show except Rules of Nerdquisition.
I'm so sorry that I missed the Harry Mudd show. I mean,
yeah.
Well, you know, it's
It's Harry Mudd. You know, it's Harry. It's one of those.
He didn't come for that.
Harry Mudd he's one of those guys that you just hate. You just want to punch him in his mouth.
I'm a barium enema. It was
You
kind of
just
like that.
you just want to just kind of
Yeah.
throat punch him. You know.
You nailed it, George.
Is this the kind of guy I'd like to meet?
We only have to talk about Harry Mudd one more time on Rules of Nerdquisition, and that's when we review the animated series because
Yeah.
he was part of that too.
Yeah.
Yay.
Oh, that Harry Mudd. Okay, I got you. Okay, now I'm following.
Now I will say the Rainn Wilson portrayal of Harry Mudd. I mean, I will say he did a great job. He did a great job.
Oh, he was
Because-
brutal.
Absolutely, yes. But yeah, he is definitely one of the bad guys that you really just you love to hate him.
Okay, are we on?
So we're on everywhere. I'm just getting everything set up for TikTok. So
Okay.
we'll see how well that goes.
All right. Do you want me to start? And then.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, boys and girls and children of all ages. This is Model Citizen on GCPR, Ghost Claw Productions Radio. I am your host, George Dayer. I am flanked by my three wonderful co-hosts, the Angry IT Nerd, Gilbert, Gretchen, a.k.a. Barbie Yaga, a.k.a. Jane Wick, a.k.a. There's a lot of a.k.a.s here. A.k.a. Vader's Mistress, and also Printmaster James. Our special guest today is Ralph Tenaglia, owner and operator of Tenna Controls, tennacontrols.com. And welcome to
you, guys.
to Model Citizen. And I'm sure Gretchen has a lot of questions for you about your boards. I don't. I know that they're fantastic. I've used them. I actually, have a very, small little story that I'll tell you, within thing. But so for our listeners on GCPR.live, who is Ralph Tenaglia and how did you get here? That's my first question.
My God, how did I get here? My background is in engineering. I work for a process control company, and I still do, but I manage to run Tenna Controls and Madman Lighting, which can be daunting at times, especially during COVID. But backtrack to, I think it was 2010, 2011, I was being asked to build some boards by a modeler because he said every time he ended up working, he was working with me. That's how I got pushed into this. I sort of got nudged into it a little by little. He said, well, sometimes we can't find things online or they're out of stock. And we're talking about light boards now. So he goes, why don't you take your experience and do it? I said, because I've had other companies in the past, part-time companies. I said, I didn't know anything about model building, to be honest. I got traumatized as a kid. My dad bought me one of those big V8 see-through engines you have to put together. And the reason I got traumatized is because I built it, but that was my first, quote, model that I ever built in my life. I think it was like either 8, 9 years old. and it's a V8 engine. It's integrated. It's a lot of parts to it. I guess I used too much glue, and I turned on the switch, and the motor the pistons did not go up and down. That was the end of that. So in my adult life, he kept saying, yeah, just build some stuff for me. He goes, I'll build it. We'll put it into a ship and we'll sell it on eBay and we'll make some money. We'll split it, blah, blah, blah. So he said, I finally, after 2.5 years of him hounding me, I said, okay, I'll do it. So we did the fusion core for the Lost in Space Jupiter 2, the 18-inch, when they quote unquote repopped it, as they say. So we did that. So I did that, and then he said, well, what about the refit, Star Trek? He goes, I'm a big Star Trek guy. Can you make something for that? So I started doing that, but my background that I do a lot of work with when I was in engineering was in analog, even though my full degree is in computer science. Mm-hmm. But we were always into analog. I'm like a dinosaur. So when you build things in analog, it takes more parts, more cost, bigger board. So I had prototyped a photon and torpedo board, and it was all analog. And I said, nobody's going to buy this because it's going to be very expensive. So I said, okay, let's go to micro because we can shrink everything down. So I did that. We did unknowingly that I learned from you guys that the refit, they called it the Widowmaker because it's a very daunting ship to put together mechanically. And then you introduce lighting into the equation. It just gets really, really complicated. But we did it. I did the wiring for it. I did the boards, the lighting, and we were selling on eBay. And believe it or not, Boyd, God bless his soul, he was the first one that bought the ship. Because I don't know if too many people know his background and his story. Boyd was not really per se. He loved building models, but he wasn't really a model maker. He loved to paint. He was more of a collector. I don't want to get too long into the story because we only have a short amount of time. But what happened? He bought the kit. I mean, not the kit, but we built the ship, the refit on a base and everything. It was basically for us. It was R&D. Mm-hmm. We built it and we sold it, and he was the first buyer. We shipped it down in a big, big crate, all packaged up. When he got it, it was partially broken at the rear end of the ship at the other end. And Boyd, again, at that time, he was not really building models per se in a large, he was more of a collector. He bought models from other people and he showcased it in his house, what have you. I think his channel back then was Fox B102 or something like that. It wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're going way back into the archives here. But anyway, it was broken. He found somebody in Texas that was a model builder. He was willing to fix it for him. But that fell through. It never happened. So I said, well, Boyd, I got insurance on it. We'll get some money, blah, blah. He goes, well, it's partially broken. He goes, let me take a crack at it. So he fixed it up, okay, and said it works. And then because it was just a minor damage. It wasn't major, but he was able to fix it and everything. And then he got involved into, building little ships, this and that, and it all started from there. So from that one accident, call it an accident from shipping UPS, what have you, he became what you guys remember him on at TrekWorks when he did all those build-ups and everything. So
right,
that's the genesis of Tenor Controls in a nutshell.
The person that Ralph is referring to is Boyd Crompton. He had passed away a few months back from cancer, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cancer.
Yeah.
He wasn't. He didn't do some classes at Jersey Fest, did he?
One year he did, and I was there as well. But that was the only year. Yeah, Jersey Fest.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I do. Yeah, I do remember him. Yeah. Nice guy though. Very nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was willing to help people, but as his channel grew, he got more and more questions, and it's. When back then he was still working full time, James, and he was getting hundreds of emails how do you do this? I saw you do it, but I didn't see how you did this part. So he was trying to help everybody, but he got kind of burnt out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
for sure.
Yeah, I had talked to him about, because I was at the time I was trying to do the buck for the 48-inch Invaders flying saucer, and I had it in foam. I did it in foam, and he said, "Are you gonna?" He goes, "Are you gonna build that?" I was like, "Yeah," and he goes, "You should talk to Ralph." And like going, that was my first thought. I was like, "Yeah, Ralph's gonna be the first person I go to for a board, and he's gonna have to, but I had a flood in the basement, and that foam buck became like a giant sponge, and it was like destroyed. So now I have I have the 24-inch that I'm working on, like a 24-inch Invader saucer. So I'm doing that one, but yeah, we talked a lot about the Invaders and stuff, and he said, "Yeah, I got that board from Ralph. It's great." I was like, "I just need that." I said, "I just need the same board, but just to do a larger scale. That's all." And so I'll and I'll figure it out.
Like I say, George, a lot of people, I talk to them. They say, "Well, I'm doing this thing and that thing, and it's this size." From my perspective, I mean, you guys may have a different opinion, but from my perspective, the board's scale blind.
Exactly. I remember you telling me that.
They don't care if you can go into a 6-inch or 6 foot. You just have to scale up the lighting.
Right.
Yeah. Because I've got like your War Machine, Martian War Machine kit, and I've got various models of the War Machine, but I've got this really, really like studio scale one that I've had for like 25 years, and I've just been terrified to build the thing. But I bought that kit originally to put like in the the Pegasus model, but I still have it, waiting to when I get around to actually building this War Machine. And I remember you telling me that it's like all this stuff is scale independent. It's really lights. And,
we did that. Jesus, I'm embarrassed. I have a hard time with names, Jam. I can't remember, but there's a gentleman, Swanson. There we go. He built us a scale.
Glenn Swanson.
Glenn, yes.
Yeah. Oh, he's a great guy.
That early one with the light there.
Yeah, I've got that too. I've got to build that too.
Yeah, so we scaled, we talked, and so there's one example of being scaled up. It's now granted it's a different eye, but you get the idea.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
So the story I had was I went with a friend of mine to an IPMS model show one time, and there was this guy who was, he's like a big military modeler and everything. He had this, aircraft carrier, and it was all lit and everything. I said, "Oh, this is really nice." His son was going around to all of the tables and switching off all the models. Like he was going and turning off turning off all of the like the power strips that all these other models were plugged into. And I was like, that little son of a, and then he was like, and whenever I build my models now, I have something called Talent Cell. It's it's like a lithium ion battery pack. It's 12 volts. It's about 3 amps. It's 3,000 milliamps. And, that's what I use for any model that I have. And it's always tucked, if it's like a diorama or whatever, it's tucked underneath. So you really can't see any wiring, because IPMS, they scrutinize you on everything. They scrutinize you on the model and everything. I just had a scratch built thing, and it was like some sort of like a Mars probe that I had, and then it had guys on the surface with like a little lunar rover, but it had lighting underneath the probe to shine onto the surface. And I remember buying one. I bought one of your remote controls, the 900 megahertz, the little
Oh yeah, I think they're like 344 megahertz, something like that.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
and it had 4 buttons on it.
Yep.
And I remember kids going around and he's switching off he's turning off all these things. So, because he wanted, I guess, his father's model to shine and, everybody else, So he gets to mine and the lights are on. And he's looking at it and he's going, can't see it, whatever. So I had, because I had known about this guy. This guy was very egotistical, like my models are this and yours is nothing and all this other stuff.
Is this Dave Merriman? Are you talking about Dave Merriman?
It could be. I'm not sure. I don't. But his kid was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But
That doesn't sound unsure to me.
But I don't know. But so I had inadvertently put a control panel on the thing so you could switch certain things on. The control panel really didn't do anything. The remote was the trigger for everything, had the remote hooked into the thing and hooked into power and everything else. So this kid is trying to switch off the thing. He's switching it off. And then I had the remote in my pocket. And my friend Kevin is looking. He's like going, oh, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. He's going to do it. He's going to switch it off. Switch it off. And then I hit the little button and it would switch off. And, this kid's like, okay. He'd go on to the next model. All of a sudden, my lights go back on again. And he's looking at it and he's like, what? And he goes back and, he's flicking some switches and the thing, I turn it off. He goes back, switch it back on again. So it was great. And and Kevin's like going, you're really messing with his head. I was like, yes, I am. I'm messing with his head. Yeah. I was like, and it was, I was like,
see, it's the little things in life.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you so much. Thank you for this. This is wonderful.
See, it's the little things in life that bring you just so much joy. It's the little things.
I actually fell victim to that scenario once. A friend of mine was at my house when I was still married and downloaded the app for my TV.
Oh,
Turning it off. And I would walk over and turn it on, and they would turn it off with their phone. And they only stopped me when I almost punched my TV. Well, it's just a joke. It's just a joke.
But that's my that's my Tenant Controls remote control story. So
Yep. They come in handy.
So my question is this: I'm building pretty standard AML enterprise refit model. I've looked all over the box. It does not have the scale on it. I'm assuming it's about one by 1,000 ish. 1,000. So you say your controls are not scale dependent. So like if I were to just buy your
the boards are not.
the boards are not. Okay.
Yeah, like we have I hate to go on record for saying this. I personally, I would rather just make boards and be done with it, because
Right.
time is always of essence, right? It's easier to make boards, but we have to do the lighting kit. You have to kit up so many 3mm LEDs, 5mm. So that's where it becomes scale dependent, because we make lighting kits for a particular scale. But if you want to use just the board and you want to, a lot of you guys, I see James back there. He's got plethora of equipment there. I'm sure he's got LEDs.
Oh,
LED
yeah.
and everything. So you guys don't really need my per kit. You just need the board. But we do have some 1,000 scale boards, to get back to your question.
Okay, so I'm looking. I actually found it online now. My model is 1/537 scale.
Okay, it's a little bit bigger, yes.
Yeah, and the other thing is that and this is something I think that it's kind of a pet peeve of mine when I see people that build these models, with the lighting, and they put these LEDs in there and they're like, if somebody was actually flying that spaceship or whatever, they'd be blinded,
Yeah, you mentioned that the last time.
And
Yeah,
it's like you go in there, it's like
because they're so bright.
yeah, it's like that's ridiculous, and the thing is like you take that into consideration, as part of it's not just putting a light in there. It's like you said, scale. You have to scale things down to what's appropriate. I forget what it was. It was like some a Viper fighter or something like that, and I was like, if I was judging that kid, it'd been, sorry, pal, it looks great otherwise, but with that light on, it's, highly realistic.
That's the thing. I went to one Comic-Con show because it was here in Boston, asked Tenor Controls to sell my stuff. I quickly found out that Comic-Con is not the market for any lighting company, because these people, they're not model builders like you guys. They're fans.
Yeah.
That's all they want.
Buy figures and pre-built stuff, like the X Plus stuff.
Well, those Comic-Con, the Star Trek one, they come dressed up as like Federation people, Cleons, what have you. That's what they want to do. Number one. Number two, they want to take pictures with some of the cast members. Number three, they want to get books or posters. When they came by my tables, I had a couple of tables there because it was in Boston, Massachusetts, and wasn't too far from me. So they said, "Oh, this is great! Oh, this is great!" And we also brought it back at that time. We had a ship or two as see what you can do with it. And they said, "Oh, this is great! This is beautiful." I said, "Well, what have you built? What do you want to use this for?" Oh, goes, "Oh, no. I don't build anything. I just admire them." Now, James, getting back to your comment about the flashlight, there was a gentleman. He had like a push cart thing. Now, Boyd knew who he was because he bought from this guy. I don't remember his name. I met him 13 years ago. But anyway, he was pushing this cart, and he had a bunch of Star Trek type ship like the Voyager, the Enterprise, and he lit them up so bright that it was casting a shine everywhere. But these people from Comic-Con, they're not modelers. They thought it was the cat's meow. But it's not really right. You want to have what we call subdued lighting, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, it's
that was something that Mark Myers brought up when he was on our show.
Oh, really?
A few weeks back from Third Models.
Yeah.
Or the Third Model. Yeah, he was talking about that, like how he really dives into the super detail and the scale of the lighting, not just the kit, but the scale of the light it emits and all that stuff. And talking about how your average fan looks at it, it's like, oh, that's fucking amazing. But yeah, you turn it on in a dark room and like you can see you can read a book.
Exactly. You don't even need the
Yeah. I guess it depends on what you're actually going for. If you want that sort of effect, I don't know why you would, but
everybody does their own thing in modeling. Some people, they what do you guys call them? Rivet counters.
Oh, those guys.
They by the book, they yell at you, they chastise you.
Which I find ludicrous for somebody who builds like science fiction models, because you're not even talking about anything that's real. So
right. It's not the USS Enterprise, the aircraft carrier.
Yeah. But that's always been the argument with like these other these other regular models, like the military modelers. It's like
that's like IPMS,
Yeah, they go, "Oh, you're not building anything. That's not real."
Yeah.
So
the IPMS guys, there's one guy actually had a loop, and he's looking at it, he's like going, "Oh, you have a seam in there. Oh, you didn't do this." And I'm like, really? It's like he going looking at every little piece. Is it filled in? Is it this? And then the lighting is not to scale. And I'm like, and they're like brutal. That's I don't even go to and if I go to IPMS, I just put stuff that I don't put stuff in competition because they don't know how to judge science fiction. They know how to judge tanks, ships, airplanes, military stuff. That's all they know how to judge. Yeah. And it's always the same 3 guys winning. They're all like retired military.
Is this MosquitoCon you're talking about? MosquitoCon, the IPMS?
Yeah.
Yeah.
MosquitoCon and Wayne. They're all it's always the same three guys. When yeah, he won. I'm like, okay, he won last year.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
give it
yeah.
to somebody else.
And they're not saying, yeah. I mean, I did the judging there one year because they couldn't find anybody else that knew anything about science fiction.
Oh.
And there was some. I mean, even though I don't like Star Wars, no offense, I had to admit the guy who did the Star Wars model did it.
Blaspheme! You shouldn't even be on the show. What the hell? Is that?
But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it's it's just like a certain but the thing with the thing with tenant controls is you found a niche market and I was like, wow, I found this, and I looked at it and I was like, okay, he found this market for these models. These models are coming out. How do you is it by popular demand? Do you how do you create these kits for these models? If there's a new model coming out, do you get an email from the company saying, "Hey, we're coming out with a new Star Destroyer" or something like that?
No, it's not that structured, George. It's basically the community. Back then, Boyd, because he liked to build things, there was Boyd. Then there was a couple other guys. Alan is one of them. They came to me and they said, "Hey, we need a lighting kit for this type of enterprise or this type of ship." We have online the refit. We have I think I'm online. Let's see. I have. Think we got I'm using dual screens here. Like the Enterprise, we got 11 lighting kits for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was a big seller. Everybody wanted to do the Enterprise, and one gentleman came to me and said, there was a bunch of, because I always advocated when I was on some of those YouTube hangouts. I said, listen, get together. Even back then when we first started out, I said, okay, sometimes, money's tight, what have you. I said, I'm not adverse to selling to one entity like 10 or 20 boards, kits, what have you. And you can get, because to allude back to where I came from, I come from a professional background. I mean, I shortchanged. I didn't give you all my background because I did so many different things. I did some, came in as engineering, but then I went to sales. And so and then as a regional sales manager, I got involved in distribution, networks, things like that. So over the 40 years, I have a well-rounded business background from inception to out the door. So I knew all these things. I knew the pricing model, blah, blah, blah. And I said, listen, I'll deal with one guy. Tell me what you want. Here's all the kits. You get a discount and you decimate it, to your friends. So one guy came back and said, okay, my friends and I, he goes, there's like 10 of us. On the refit, we want it's on the website, and we call it the combo-MVE as what they call the Move 2000. No, was it 2009? Or the movie version of it.
Oh, right.
But it's not a full-blown kit, but it's got enough features, and it's also got the ability to hit one button and it shuts everything down and it stages it back up. That was our first demo mode thing. So that was, whether you like the lighting effects or not, I have nothing to do with it. Okay. They came to me and they said, I want this output to work like this. I want this output to work like that, and this output. Because I said to them, listen, I'm not a model geek. I don't study everything about style. I'm too busy, okay? Tell me what you want. Let's make it as canon as possible to what you guys think is canon. And we'll go from there. Because in programming, it doesn't matter if this goes on when that goes off or vice versa. We can make it do anything you want. Just tell me. So it was a collaboration of the model community and tenant controls. So you come to me, you tell me what you want. And we built some stuff on the website. I pruned it down a little bit, but we probably had at one time over 70 different products. and some of them sold. Like we took off the Corvette lighting kit for the car because not many sold, but we can still make it. But there's probably like 30% of products that never made it to the website because they're all custom, you know.
Yeah.
And
So would it be?
Go ahead.
Would it be easier then? So you said your boards are not scale specific. Would it be easier for me to say just purchase the lighting kit and then replace the lights, the LEDs, or whatever
Correct.
you use individually?
Yes, we've had some people that, like for instance, like for the 537, you have a 537, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Is it an enterprise like the refit type?
Yeah, it's the refit model.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So that's a good question. And we can answer that, and it might help a lot of different people. So yes, you can buy the 1/350 scale. The only difference is on the refit is the navigation deflector dish, the one that goes from amber to blue, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And what you guys call the chiller grills on the side of the nacelles, right?
Yep.
Now, the 1/350 scale comes with blue LED strips on the chiller grills, 8-inch long. So for your scale, I think if my memory serves me right, I think it's 5 3/4 you would need. Okay. And
Yeah, roughly.
yeah, so it's shorter, right? So I think 5 3/4 was the magic number. And remember, on the LED strips, you must cut on the cut lines, right? You can't cut willy-nilly, right? Or else they won't work.
Right.
And on the navigational deflector dish, we go from 5 millimeters down to 3 millimeters. We do have the bicolors in a smaller size, i.e. smaller scale. So you would have to swap up 2 items. And as the English say, Bob's your uncle.
And just for those listening, you know, I've been on your website dozens and dozens of times in the last month now because I'm engaging in this project. I don't know why, because I hate myself apparently. But these kits are not expensive. You know, I mean, it depends. I guess your level of what's expensive matters. But I mean, $50, $60, $70 for a kit like this. I mean, if you're a dedicated modeler, you need to check out Tenant Controls because it's really economical for somebody who's into something like this.
Absolutely, you know, and the other thing is, I mean, I know electronics to a certain extent. You know, I'm not like an engineer or anything like that, but you know, there's a lot of things I can do. You know, on my own, I can use like a Raspberry Pi or whatever, or what is it, the Arduino.
Arduinos, yes.
But there's still a lot of time involved, you know, and it really depends on how much time is it really worth my time to spend my time to do it myself versus, hey, this guy's already got something, or if I tweak it a little bit, you know. And so it's really a trade-off. Are you more interested in building the model and getting it finished, or are you
That's correct.
To do it yourself? And,
Right.
And not only that, it's debugging that stuff, and you know, like even debugging like circuits, like you said, like analog. You know, I'm an old 555 guy, you know, and you know, trying to figure out, okay, how can I make this thing, you know, go on and off, you know, at this certain rate and stuff. But
James, there's nothing wrong with 555s. That was was it 1001 board we came up with the first year we're in business. Like I put to when I first George asked me, well, what are you all about? That was analog.
Yeah.
Had a strobe and a nav output, all analog.
Exactly.
But you know, they because it's capacitive and resistive charge and discharge to set your timing. Over time, maybe 5 years, 6 years, it will drift. I mean, if you don't care about the timing, it's not 1 second anymore. It's 1.3 seconds. If you don't care about that's fine. But that's the side effect with when you have timing set with resistance and capacity. They're just over time they start to dry out. Their ratings go down.
Yep.
Behave digital. All our digital timing is set digitally. It's in.
I'm big into analog. Synthesizers also, like music synthesizers, and that's something you have to do. I mean, like, you know, like with the vintage like synthesizer market, is that, you know, you may have bought something that's, you know, like 40 years old. It's not going to sound like it did 40 years ago. You know, you got to go back and
popping a little pop.
Yeah, and you got to recap the whole thing, you know, to make it, you know, bring it back to, you know. So it's, you know, it's definitely, there's so many headaches with doing it yourself, you know, that you know.
we're here. I mean,
So
I don't mind. I mean, people, that's what I told them years when we used to do those hangouts. Hey, if you want to do things yourself, more power to you. Because I'm like that. When I was younger, I fixed my own cars to some great degree. You know,
exactly. Yeah.
it was fun. But as you get older, you got things to do, more priorities, family, grandkids, things like that. Or if you just don't want to, you want to be a model builder and just
Exactly.
knock them out, put them on your shelf or sell them. You don't want to be tied down to the nitty gritty of that thing, then come see us.
Yeah.
the one thing I really like about your boards is they have reverse voltage protection.
Most of them do.
I wire it, and case in point,
Yeah.
2017, I was interning for Steve Neal. I was in his shop, and we were wiring up Voyager with somebody else's board, and Steve's doing six. I think we were doing like 6 models at one time. We were doing the Katinga. I was working on the Travel Pod. He was working on Voyager. We were doing Skydiver. We were doing all these other models. And Steve's going back and forth, and he's wiring a thing. And all of a sudden, I see smoke coming out of Voyager from this one thing. And I'm like, and he's like, George, you see that? I'm like, yeah, it's on fire. Come on. Put out the thing, put out all the flames.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, what are we going to do now? And I said, I'm going to put in a call to Ralph. And you got us that board within 24 hours. You sent that board out in 24 hours. And you're like, I just have to reprogram a certain board and blah, 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 and I'll send it out to you. And I said, Steve, it's got reverse voltage protection on it. It's a tenant controls board. It's warranted for 5 years. He goes, what the hell am I using this board for? He took the other board and he threw it across the room. And I was like, okay, well, there you go. And it sells itself.
Yeah, and it's nothing more heartbreaking because, like you said, doing this yourself, nothing more heartbreaking is that you spend all this time trying to get the wiring in there, and you glue it up, you close it up, and you say, "Oh, I'm never gonna have to open this thing up again." And then you plug in the power supply, and then you forgot that this power supply is the opposite of what you tried when you were developing it. And then the whole, like you said, it smokes and the LEDs blow out, or you're using too much volt, and it's such a, and then you got like a dead model, a dead stat, unlit model,
The one thing that I learned, like from Gary Hughes, was he goes, never put the board in the model, always put the board in the stand.
Yeah.
And then if you have to put a couple of leads from the board is in the stand. It's not inside the model. Just put it in a stand or let it sit there. Don't put it in the model. I was like, okay.
So now, George, Boyd would tell me this. He goes, no, I put all your boards inside the ship, and I would be sweating. I said, okay. I'm comfortable with my boards. Well, what about if something happened? There was like something was barely shorted, and over time, it just kept drawing more and more current. I said, okay. He goes, I don't know. I've used your stuff for back when he made that comment. It was like 9 years. All the kits, all the things that I shipped, nobody's complained about a dead board. But that always worried me. Yeah, if you can put it in the base, especially our bigger boards, they can't fit inside the ship anyway.
Yeah.
So it behooves you to put it there. But since we're getting on a conversation of boards and we're probably reaching a wide audience, I just want to say this. Please, when you're working on your ship with electronics that you're going to include in there, and you're, let's say, 20, 30% done with your wiring and everything, and you're doing things, please power down your model. We had one person that left the power on, and he was soldering something, and the solder dripped.
Oh my God.
Like a heat-seeking missile. It dripped right on the control board. It was inside the ship, and he killed. So more of the story. Do not work on lighting live. Power it down.
And the other thing is I would recommend, because I had this happen to a synthesizer. I sorry to be talking about synthesizers too, but is like sometimes people will put batteries in the models, and if you leave them in there, as you know, especially if it's a Duracell, I don't know about you guys, but a terrible track record with Duracell, but the thing will leak.
Yes.
And the acid will get on that circuit and destroy the circuit, in some cases. And so, power is a very important aspect of this, and knowing where to put the power. And so,
Yep.
Well, I thought that was interesting because what started me on this project is I actually built an enterprise refit several years ago that came as a lighted model. You built it, it came with the kit and everything. And even them, as cheap as that model was, and I hated the sound effects, it was a refit model with, the 60s series sound effects in it. But they had enough knowledge to put board in the base of the model and not inside the model themselves for something that was like $40 when I bought it. Like, wow, I mean, you thought about that. Because I don't want to take it apart. Once I'm done, that's why, like, I buy your kit. I get the lights that come with it. I can change them there, but like, I couldn't just buy the board. I wouldn't know what to do with just the board. But I can change them.
Yep.
it's easier than you think. You might say you don't know what to do, but basic electronics. It's really that board. It's that brain of the thing. That's the complicated part. Understanding the basics of just getting current through an LED, that's
right. Yeah, with instructions, yes, absolutely. I mean, I had a friend who knew nothing about electronics. So, like the rage a couple years ago of those was like lit, like LED clouds you could hang up in your rooms, and they would change color.
Yeah.
He just bought a board and the fabric that you use, the fireproof, heat resistant fabric, and made this thing for me. And I had this for a while, this awesome cloud that you could do all these light patterns with, and like, he didn't know nothing. I mean, I'm an accountant.
Did you have sound with it too?
It did not, but I'm an accountant, and I like to think I'm fairly smart. But I mean, like, this dude didn't even graduate high school and put that together. So I'm like, oh, he can do it.
Well, if I can interject on one thing, because you guys brought up electronics and everything, I just want to say, and I tell that to people when they call me and they say, I don't know anything about electronics. I said, listen, relax. It might be blasphemous for me to say this, but I'm going to say it. You don't have to know anything about electronics if you don't want to.
Right.
Okay? Mm-hmm. I said, the manual shows you what an actual physical resistor looks like. It looks like a bullet with two legs coming out of it. One leg is shorter than the other. The shorter one is minus. The long one is positive. And then we depict a schematic version of what that is on our wiring diagram. You just have to know what's minus, what's positive. You don't have to know how the LED works. Just connect this wire to here, that wire to there, end of story. Now, granted, you might have to do this, depending on the kit, 20 times to maybe 100 times. But it's the same thing. It's one thing. You're just replicating it either 10 times, 20, 30, 100 times. That's all. You don't... Everybody says, I'm not an electronics guy. I said, nobody's asking you to be an electronics guy. Just connect from point A to point B. End of story.
Yep, definitely.
By numbers.
Actually, I have a question for you. As far as I know, it's mostly like lighting kits that you do. But have you ever, as far as like another thing is that sometimes people like to add a little bit of kinetic aspect to it. So have you ever consider working with like servos or doing like I know you've done sound, right? You've had sound, so
yeah, we don't do servos because they're really pain in the butt to program sometimes.
Yeah.
But see, here's the thing. We program from the ground. We don't use Arduino, so we don't have we don't have a library that. So now Arduino's almost leveled the field, right? You got somebody that doesn't know how to do anything, no programming, but if you have enough, I guess, stick-to-itiveness, you can figure out how to do it somehow, some way over time.
Yeah.
And they have, how do you move this motor? We've done it in the past, but servos sometimes, like take the case of the 1350 TOS, right? We use regular motors for that. And
DC motors or like
gearbox.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I use it a lot too. So.
Yeah, so we don't use servos. We use because we back then we couldn't find the servers that were small enough, and you had to program it a certain way, and we got involved in it. But you guys all know when you buy the TOS and you get the little beside area, it's got a vacuum form slot for the motors. Okay, now the motors that we use happen to fit in there. Okay, by luck, because that's a standard, quote unquote, standard size, and because of the tolerances, if it doesn't fit, you can drill it with a drill bit, right? But the servos back then, since we don't use it, I haven't bothered all these years to look back into it, because why recreate the wheel when it works? Because we went directly to a motor manufacturing company. That's all they do is motors. Now, granted, it is overseas, like everything else, especially with these tariffs these days. We'll see how it works. But we got our motors now. I mean, we got it before all this happened. But anyway, we work with them. Their motors that they sell everywhere else is around 47 decibels. That's the sound of it.
Yeah.
And it's fairly loud.
Yeah.
I said, our first batch that we got 7 years ago was at 42 or 43 decibels, so quite a bit lower. I said, can you guys do it any better than that? So they said, well, you have to pay more for the gearbox. We have to get a better gearbox, better material, blah, blah, blah. Sounds like a sales pitch, but I understand. I get it. So, okay, let's do that. I said, send me some samples. And then the shaft on these motors now, we had them in the past. We got the standard shaft. I think it's like 3/4 of an inch.
Yeah.
But when you build a TOS, if you guys decide to use the spinning basards that come with the kit, the holes are made for the smaller motors that Round 2 uses, right? So for my motors and everybody else's motor that's on the market, the shafts are bigger in diameter. It's a D-slot shaft, basically. So you have to drill it out a little bit, very carefully. So with the long shaft, you'd have to do more drilling, and then we used to cut it. So because we went through this company to try to build it up better, I said, next time when you make the motors for us, we want a 1/4 inch shaft. So that way when you guys drill out that plastic piece, because it can crack if you don't do it correctly, right, when you're drilling it. But I guess on, what's that 3D company that everybody goes to now? Shapeway?
Oh, Shapeway. Shapeway.
Yes. There's a gentleman that did his own basards that actually mate to our motors, okay? And they look like a skeleton umbrella. It's not a whole dome. It's an actual, think of an umbrella, just a skeleton. No.
Oh, right. Okay.
You got all the fins in the shaft, right? Whereas Polar Lights gives you the dome, the whole plastic dome. But anyway, you can get them there too. So we got ours down to 41 at decibel, at the most 42. So they're as quiet as they can be for the gearbox motor, and they run between 3 and 5 volts. So that's pretty good. Yeah, what we did, instead of running it off 12 and things like that, we make it run 3 to 12. Now, there's a good reason for that. Our TOS boards for the 1/350 scale, you can power it either 9 volts or 12 volts DC, but on each board, because these TOS boards, they're not dumb boards. What I mean by dumb board, they don't just have LEDs. In the back of those boards is actually a microprocessor, a regulator, the whole 9 yards to make it an autonomous board. That's why people come to me. They say, I bought a Round 2 lighting kit, and I don't want to waste my money. I got the navs, the strobes, they're all working. I just don't like the motor part. Can I use your TOS motors, the LED version or the motorized version? I say yes, because they work by themselves. They don't need a motherboard to run them. They're intelligent, okay? So there's a 5-volt regulator on that board. So it ties into these motors that work between 3 and 5. And what we did, well, now it's about 10 years ago more, we designed a special circuit. James might know this because he's talked about servo, pulse width modulation.
Yeah, exactly.
But for when you use pulse width modulation on a brushed motor, like what we use, sometimes it can like go out of round. It seems like it skips. So it works better if you provide steady DC levels.
Right.
So what our board does is we take that modulated section. I mean, I know I'm getting into the weeds, but
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
we take that modulated section of one of our outputs from our micro, which we call on the clockwise board. We built a special circuit that takes that modulation, and it's basically a charge pump. It gives you a steady DC voltage output, and that's what the motor wants. They don't want to see it. You don't want to see it pulsed right up and down. It's
Right.
got a straight DC voltage that starts out at 3 point something. Then we lower it to a little bit at 3. Then we raise it to 4 and 5. So you get 4 different speeds.
So is that kind of like I guess what you call a digital analog converter?
Yeah. So the micro's digital.
Yeah.
We pulse an analog circuit that we designed that
Right.
gives you pure DC.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So
Wow.
the motors, yeah. So the lower you run the motor at our lower speeds, it sounds not as noisy as it would at 5 volts.
Yeah.
Even though I guess at 5 volts, you'll get the full 41 or 42 decibels. But if you run it, we have 2 slower speeds. If you run at the slower speeds, because you're running it at lower voltage, it's going to turn slower, which you may like. Some people like the slower rotating
Yeah.
effect. And it'll be quieter too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go.
That was always a challenge for me is trying to find motors that would turn slowly. I know. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's very interesting.
I talked to Boyd about the because I think he was doing the 1/350 scale TOS Enterprise, and he said to me he said the motors are fine. I got them from I think he got them from Ralph, and then he's like, it still echoes. I was like, go to Home Depot. He goes, why? I said, go get the foam insulation that goes over your pipes, cut it down, and put it right into the tube. Just put a small section right into the tube. And he goes, he goes, why? I said, because the motors are going to transmit that vibration through the tube, and it's going to become, like an echo chamber.
Yep.
I said, just put the foam right through the tube. And he put it right through the tube, and he goes, oh, look at that. I was like, there you go. Now it's quiet because it's solid. And he goes,
yeah.
So, man.
But yeah, it's kind of like that. I guess like that wine glass effect, Like,
right. Right.
A certain frequency. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that's true. So it's not a sound dampening thing. It's an actual physical dampening.
Well, yeah. It basically, because the motors are in a central location, the vibration is actually going through that tube, and it's becoming an echo chamber. Yeah.
Exactly.
Very interesting.
Good point, George. Great.
Yeah.
Yes, science at work.
Look, I'm an amateur modeler at best. I'm on this show just because I learned so much from you people. I'm here to
Right, see?
and throw a humorous limerick in there every now and again.
Right, same here. All I am, I'm just a jackass with a 3D printer. So
Don't sell yourself short. If you guys are making
yeah.
good stuff.
If you own a 3D printer, you're not a jackass in my book.
a lot to it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's a whole man. Believe me.
Yeah, so needless to say, I mean, just talking to everybody here, and yeah, it same with Gretchen. I learned so much, and it's just, and again, like I said, I'm just a jackass with a 3D printer. Although I may not be a jackass in your book, James, somebody else's book, I may be a jackass.
Everybody that doesn't have a 3D printer is a jackass in my book.
Oh, you call me a jackass, James?
So there's 2 jackasses on the show, and then there's 2. Okay, great.
I don't consider myself a jackass. I am a student.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, again, for anyone listening, I mean, Ralph here from Tenant Controls. tenacontrols.com, TENA controls.com. That's where I'm going to get my lighting kit for this model. It's going to be some time because I'm still in the painting phase, but I'm definitely going to get my kit from you and use it to build my model because I'm desperate to do this for years, ever since I got that crappy lit kit.
I still have Ralph's kit to do the sonar screen from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
I was wondering.
I still have that kit.
Wow.
I have
Wow.
I've not done
Sonar
it yet,
screen?
but
Sonar screen? You mean it's like in the base, right? Is that what you're
well,
talking
yeah, it was going to be a a control cluster for the flying sub. And then I said, well, now that I had the 39-inch C view, I'm going to have to get Ralph's board for the 39-inch C view. Plus, he made me a lighting kit, like a special lighting kit to light up the rings of the Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea sonar screen. So it actually pulses from the middle to the the outer ends, and it has a pot on it. So the pot actually controls the speed. So I can make it, do kind of like a disco lighting if I want to, or I could just make it, go slower. But that's the one I'm gonna. I've been investigating because I had done the Deadly Creature, sculpt at Jersey Fest. I am gonna do the Leviathan sculpt. So that is on my list to do, the Leviathan sculpt.
So, that reminds me. So I saw something. Tony Hardy put something out on Facebook. He said somebody did like an HD remaster of that episode. So anyway, just thought I'd mention that. So that's
it was on Facebook. I saw that.
That's the one with the guy, the giant guy with the cardigan sweater.
And I just got to throw these props out here, Ralph. I'm looking at your Facebook page. The Martian War Machine, that is awesome.
Oh yeah,
I love
That is awesome.
That's one of the better looking things, and it's easy to build. Jerry at HDMA said, "Hey Ralph, if anybody comes to you and say I'm a beginner model, try to get him into building the Martian War Machine because it's just a clamshell. It's too big.
Pretty much, with a neck. That's
so
it.
It's a good practice model.
There's something I would recommend highly. Anybody building that is don't just put the clear plastic pieces on there. What I did was I went in there and I sanded the interior of those clear pieces. And
the side wings.
Yeah, the side wings and the front. And,
the wingtips, the wingtips.
And I sanded the interior of that, and it diffuses the light really nice. I mean, you might be a little scared. Oh, why would I sand, the interior of that thing? But doing that gives it a real nice diffusion, just like in the movie.
Right.
That kind of adaptation is what we do when we're building models to get that realistic effect. You can't just take it out of a box and expect it to be something that a movie modeler would build, with $1 million budget, in some studio somewhere. We have to work with what we got. And sometimes you got to sand it. Sometimes you got to cut it, clip it.
Yeah, especially if you want to get that special look that you want.
Exactly.
Just like how you said, Gretchen, you want to tailor your model to where it looks like it's in a battle.
Right.
Do little things like, paint here and there, some scratching, some, whatever the case may be. Yeah, you got to.
Or holding a lighter to it for 30 seconds.
Yeah, to give it that look that you want.
Using somebody else's electronics board that just blew inside. Yeah. You got battle damage.
So, or you
There you go.
You were going to say something, Ralph? It looked like you were going to say something.
Yes, when you guys were talking about the Martian War Machine, and James, you brought up, sanding inside to make it light up. When we were doing the Martian War Machine, that center eye that glows, that pulsates, inside that clamshell, they had a plastic piece. I cut it off.
Right.
Don't do that because I had to put it back on. That acts as a great diffuser.
It does.
You put our LED
good to know.
behind it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when it goes through the plastic, it diffuses itself, and then you see. So then that white piece that's clear, you don't even have to. If you don't want, you don't have to sand it because the plastic.
It looks even better if you sand it, though. I will say.
Yeah, inside does the bulk of the diffusing.
Yeah, you got it trying to get rid of those hot spots. You know,
Yes,
that's always a challenge too. Is that
Yeah.
yeah.
but for
Yeah.
sure.
Good to know,
That's what
because I
wanted to
mean,
say.
my first foray into sci-fi beyond Star Trek, watching it with my dad in syndication in the '70s, was War of the Worlds, and I think that's the next model I'm going to build is a war machine. So
So love that.
thanks for the tip. I'll write that down.
There you go.
Before my friend Jeff Polizzato passed away,
Oh, yes.
he did the Martian War Machine, the Atlantis model. He actually integrated
Oh, that bizarre clock drive thing.
he did a clock drive thing. So so like the eye stalk goes
Yeah.
back and forth.
Yeah, that was
wow.
really, that's
And I was
That is cool.
Yeah,
I was like,
Yeah.
how did you do that? And he goes, I looked at. He said he looked at a locomotive, how the thing go with the
steam engine.
locomotives, and he actually just turned it on its side
Yeah.
and did it that way. But he did it with, the motors and stuff like that. And I was like, wow.
Yeah,
And
that blew my mind when I saw that.
yeah. I was like, wow, that's awesome.
I remember that he had it at Jersey Fest, if I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's why I equate today's modern, even amateur or hobbyist model builders, to the people to the Swiss watchmakers. I mean, there's so much intricacy and stuff that goes into that, and it's very innovative and interesting. And
Well, that's part of the fun, is solving problems. I mean,
Yeah.
to me,
Yeah.
it's like when I'm building a model, it's like when I'm done or I get near it, it's like I'm always kind of disappointed because, all that problem solving, you're done and you got to move to something else. But there's always a little bit of I don't know what you call it, melancholiness, I guess, associated with reaching that phase. But yeah.
when are you going to do your war machine? There.
Oh, my big one.
Yeah, your big one. When are you going to do it?
Oh, I guess now that I brought it up again, I'm myself into taking another
Who
look.
was it? Was it?
I might need to order another.
Who did
I'll
that
probably
one?
order another kit from you. There.
Who did? Was it? Who made that kit? Was
Oh, it was
that
Mike Scott.
Mike
Scott.
Mike
Yeah,
Scott did that
yeah.
one.
And it's as far as like some other people have done like some studio scale ones, but none of them compare to what Mike did. And Mike's is perfect. His was even better than the one that Greg Jean built.
Wow.
Yeah, I definitely say that. Mike does well. Hopefully, we'll get Mike on sometime too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's somebody you should know too, Ralph. Mike Scott. He could probably use your services as well because he's always asking me.
Reach out.
Hey, can he? Because he knows I know a little something about you. And I said, yeah, we could do this. Yeah, I said, yeah, I could probably do that, but I was always thinking about you when I was talking to him. Another guy who would probably use your services is Greg Nicotero. He wants because he's got that war machine, studio scale war machine, but he wants it to be he wants something that'll make the neck go up and down and
you're talking Greg Nicotero of like Walking Dead fame,
Yeah,
right?
The Walking Dead. Yeah.
yeah
Yeah. He's a big collector. He's a
I didn't know that.
he's a big fan of Jaws. He loves Jaws, and he also loves 2001 Space Odyssey.
He built a full size space pod.
Yeah, he has a 2001 Space
size.
Pod full size.
Wow.
Man.
Okay.
So he might need some
leftover
tenant controls
props
for
from,
the Space Pod. There you go.
Yeah, I think he built it from leftover props from Spy Kids or something like that he worked on, and so he had like these big domes, and so he built like a 2001 Space Pod from it. So
Nice.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
if we're getting dreamy here now, like someday, if I'm, I'll never be rich, but I would love a full size Thunder Road from the movie Explorers.
That's easy to build. I can get that one done.
Well, I want my throne. I want
I
my
gotta
throne
drop-
first, George.
All right.
I want
You'll
my
get
throne
your throne.
first.
I got to drop because I got to go get my son. So, but
Okay.
it's great. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Scene.
So-
I haven't seen you in years, Ralph. Since.
Thank you very much for coming on, Ralph. We do appreciate it.
Yeah.
The door's
Yeah.
always open. You can always come on and say, hey, we have a new kid or
Okay.
whatever.
We're actually working on Strange New World Enterprise.
Oh,
Yeah.
Excellent.
Nice.
Nice.
Hopefully,
Okay.
I'll have it out soon. It's just getting there,
Yeah. If you need anything from us, just just hit us up. Just say something, and
Well, and I'll be in touch soon because I need you to take my money.
Okay. We like to do that. We got to keep the lights on. All right.
So
Thank you very much.
thank you
for
very
having
much,
me.
Ralph.
I really appreciate it.
Our-
Our pleasure's all ours. So take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
This has
Take care.
been Model Citizen on GCPR, Ghost Claw Productions Radio. We have been talking with Ralph Tenaglia, was the owner and operator of Tenant Controls, tenantcontrols.com, bringing models to life. And this has been Model Citizen. So everyone take care and have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
All right, guys.
Take care.
Have a good weekend. Awesome.